Hey everybody, this is Mrs. Hahn, seventh grade and eighth grade language arts teacher, and I wanted to walk you through one section of your daily skill practice that you're going to do in language arts that you'll probably be doing on a regular basis. So if we scroll down here to Wednesday, on Wednesdays, we're going to encourage you to write like a writer. So any good writer learns to be a good writer by emulating other writers. And the word emulate means kind of like to imitate and try some of the techniques they use that other writers have used as well. Let's go ahead and read through Wednesday's instructions. It says reread the underlined sentence in the mentor text above. Using the underlined sentence as a model, write your own creative sentence where you emulate the techniques the author is using. Try to include some vivid imagery and a metaphor or simile in your sentence. You can write about any topic. If you need help, you're going to watch this video that I'm recording right here, or read this short explanation of how to create an imagery in your writing. Now, anytime you see something that's underlined and in a different color, it's often a link that you can click to. So if you're like, I just don't remember what a metaphor is, if you click here, this website will give you some examples and explain that. And sometimes I've created a little resource for you as well, or your other language arts teachers have created a resource that will teach you a mini skill that you might need reviewed before you do something. So let's first read the underlined part of the reading passage here. Let's read it here. The thing is, she's not as perfect as you think. And if you ever got off the bus to introduce yourself, you'd find out she's got a fake tooth that's turning a little bit green, breath like a racehorse, and a zit on her forehead that keeps drawing your eyes toward it like a black hole. This girl is truth. She's not so pretty, not so nice, but then once you get to know her, all that stuff doesn't seem to matter, except maybe for the breath. But that's why there's altoids. Okay, I love this passage. It's from one of our favorite books for seventh graders called The Schwa Was Here. And of course, the author is really talking not about a real girl, but about truth. So he's making a comparison. And similes and metaphors are comparisons. And the only difference is a metaphor is a comparison without the word like or as. And a simile is a comparison with the word like or as. And he actually uses both. So when he says, this girl is truth, that's a metaphor. But when the author says, um, a zit on her forehead that keeps drawing your eyes toward it like a black hole, with the word like is a simile, right? But notice other than that, this author also does a really great job of using vivid imagery to paint a picture. I can almost see this girl, right? The tooth that's turning green and the breath like a racehorse and the zit on the forehead. This author does what we call show instead of just tell to really help readers understand a story and be in the story. So what you're going to do is you're going to write an imitation sentence where you use the same techniques, an unusual metaphor or simile and imagery. You can use as many as you want, but we want you to try and use at least one. And then, of course, we want you to use some imagery as well. Before we read the imitation sentence that I made, we're going to quickly read this mini lesson that I made just to remind you of how to create good imagery. So one important phrase we use in seventh grade all the time is when you're writing, it's so important to show instead of tell by using vivid imagery. Remember, I'm going to read right here. Good writers show instead of tell the story by painting a picture with vivid imagery and sensory details. That means the things that you can witness with your five senses, which is sight, taste, touch, sound, and smell. Okay. Look below to read how you could turn a telling sentence into a showing sentence. So here is a boring, what we call telling sentence. I walked into Kings Island and was excited by all the sights and sounds. I knew today was going to be a great day. Boring. Okay, that's great. You told me what you did. You walked into Kings Island, but that author didn't describe anything. They didn't show me. Think of all the sights and sounds at Kings Island. They didn't show me those things. They just told me I went into Kings Island. So I'm going to read right here. The sentence above just tells what happens, but a good writer wants to use sensory words to help readers feel like they're hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, and smelling the scene in real life. Here are some sensory words and phrases that an author might use to describe Kings Island. And then below, read the improved showing sentence to see how a good author might transform a telling sentence into a better showing sentence. So the first thing I did is I brainstormed, okay, if I walk into Kings Island or any theme park, I want to go through what might I see, smell, hear, taste, and touch. So see, I'm gonna see people smiling. I'm gonna see, maybe I see a little kid, right? A small boy in an egg yolk yellow hat running around, coasters moving. Maybe you go for Halloween haunts. You could think, what does it look like at Halloween haunt? You've got that eerie neon green lights, the blue gray fog from the fog machines hovering over the sidewalk. Notice I didn't just say families, people, lights, fog. I gave you some visual descriptions there of colors and what it looks like. Okay, smell. Maybe you smell the food cooking, the buttery funnel cakes. Maybe, I don't know, I like the smell of that, like when you're on asphalt and it's so hot and you smell that asphalt or that cement just baking in the sun on a hot summer day. What do you hear? Well, you hear the whooshing coasters, maybe you hear laughter, high-pitched screams of delight. Like if you say screams, think about how can I expand that just a little bit more? High-pitched screams of delight because people are having fun. Taste. Maybe you go to get some graters, the cold, creamy, melt in your mouth ice cream. And finally, touch. That's not just your hands, just what are you feeling? So maybe the wind on your hair or the beads of sweat dripping down your forehead. Now, I don't want to write a sentence with all this stuff. It's too much. So I'm going to pick a few sensory descriptions and then make a few sentences. So again, here's my boring telling sentence. I walked into Kings Island. I was excited about all the sights and sounds. I knew today was going to be a great day. Here is a transformed sentence that is a showing sentence. I walked into Kings Island and my nose was immediately greeted by the smell of buttery funnel cakes wafting in the air. I turned the corner and saw a small boy in an egg yolk yellow hat running towards his family with a huge grin on his face. Small glistening beads of sweat dripped down my forehead as I walked towards the whooshing coasters where I heard the high-pitched screams of delight. Okay, so much improved, and you can almost see it and smell it and taste it with the author, right? You're being shown the scene. Let's go back to our dailies. So what you're going to do is you're going to write an imitation sentence that really emulates the techniques of a metaphor or simile, like truth being compared to this girl, okay? And I want you to use vivid imagery that shows instead of tells. Here's my imitation. I didn't write about truth. I wanted to pick a different topic. You could write about basketball. You could write about family dinners. You could write about a vacation. You could write about your bed or your dog. Just pick something that you could write about and describe and make metaphors and similes about. So I wrote about writing. The thing is, writing isn't as easy as you'd think. Notice how I started the same way? The sentence is, the thing is, she's not as perfect as you think. Here we go. The thing is, writing isn't as easy as you'd think. Sometimes I sit there, my mind an erased whiteboard, staring vacantly at the snow white paper until a sapling of an idea becomes a tree. Slowly, I begin writing as my trusty pen swiftly glides across the paper like an ice skater's blade, drawing an intricate pattern in the glassy blue ice. So I use some imagery, right? The glassy blue ice, the snow white paper. I also used a metaphor and a simile. At the end, I said, my pen glides across the paper like an ice skater's blade, drawing a pattern on the ice. I also used a metaphor, my mind an erased whiteboard. Okay, it's a comparison of like I was having a brain freeze and I couldn't think of anything. It's just like a blank erased whiteboard. You don't need all of that figurative language in there. Try to get at least one metaphor or simile, and then please use some imagery. Okay, I'm done talking. It's your turn. Good luck. I know you can do this. Happy writing, and I'm so excited to read the sentences that you come up with.